I'm testing 10 different Hobby Lobby yarns to see which ones are the best and the literal worst for making amigurumi toys. Hi, I'm Elise from the blog LePetitSaintCrochet.com. You're going to find links for all the yarns in the description box below, but here's just a little disclaimer. I obviously couldn't test every single Hobby Lobby yarn, so I just picked a few that I thought would be great for amigurumi. I chose 2 different weights of yarns. I mostly worked with medium 4-weight yarns, and I also worked a little bit with 3 lightweight yarns. With the magic of video editing, let's go back in time and come with me to my local Hobby Lobby store where I picked out all of these gorgeous yarns. I'm gonna stop by my local Hobby Lobby because I'm always on the lookout for a good amigurumi yarn that is inexpensive but comes in the colors that I want. So I'm gonna go over there and do a little bit of shopping and see what I can find. And of course, I'll take you guys along with me. And I love the idea of having something that if I need a color, I could just drive over, pick it up, know that it is widely available, especially in the United States. So let's see what I can find. Bye, Olive. Bye, Juicy boy. Bye, Pico. Do you say goodbye to your pets when you leave? I always do. Not that they even care or they even realize that's what I'm doing, but I always like to say goodbye to them because they're my little fur babies. I just parked terribly, so I'm gonna have to fix this situation. I do most of my yarn shopping online actually, so I'm excited to kind of see what's in here because I want to test them. I'm going to test and see which one of these yarns actually works well for amigurumi. Wind whipped my hair all around. I'm so excited. I got so much yarn and it was all 30% off and I paid $38 for all of this yarn. And so the thing that I don't like about Hobby Lobby yarn, and it drives me nuts, is that most of their yarn is not labeled what weight it is. And so I have to go on my phone and look, and it's just annoying. I don't like it. They will say what size needles or hook to use, but really I want to know, is this a DK? Or even if they just put the numbers on there, like it's a 3 or a 4. So you have to go to the website to find out that information. So to be honest, that irritates me a little bit, but once I try these yarns, then I'll know which ones actually work and which ones don't work for amigurumi. I'm actually really excited about trying them just to do something new. It's always fun, and they had some really pretty colors. So I can't wait to try them. But the first yarn that we are going to try is the Yarn B Yarn ID. I really loved the color of this yarn, and I loved that it was a nice size, and it also felt really good. This is the color Dijon. It is 80% acrylic, 20% polyamide. It was on sale for $3.84. All of the yarn was 30% off, so that was great. This is 5 ounces. It is 252 yards, and what I loved about this yarn was that it was super soft. It felt really great in my hands, but one of the things that I loved about it was that it is not weak, because when we're making amigurumi with a magic ring, we really need our yarn to be nice and strong because we're going to be doing a lot of tugging and pulling, and when you sew those little arms and legs and heads on, you do not want your yarn to break mid attaching a limb. That is the worst feeling in the world. So this is a great yarn for that. What I did think think about this yarn is that it felt heavier than most of the medium weight yarns that I typically work with. So for that reason, I probably would go up to a 4mm crochet hook if I was going to be using this for amigurumi. But otherwise, I actually really liked this yarn, and I liked that it was so affordable and that the color is just really gorgeous. The next yarn is the Yarn B Lush Loft in the color Blush. It's 100% nylon. It was on sale for $3.84. It's 3.5 ounces. It's 142 yards. This yarn was actually really interesting. It has a beautiful halo. It is a beautiful color. It is super stretchy, which makes it really fun to work with. It felt so good in my hands. I wanted to love this yarn. The problem is that it is so incredibly difficult to see your stitches. I was really disappointed in that because I really love how this one feels. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to say this is not going to make a good amigurumi yarn for that reason. This next yarn is the Yarn B Comfy Classic in the color Blush. It is 48% viscose, 30% polyester, and 22% nylon. It was $2.79 on sale. It's 3.5 ounces. It's 150 yards. I actually am on the fence about this yarn. There's a lot that I really like about it. Number one, the color is just incredibly gorgeous. I was really impressed with the color options at Hobby Lobby, to be honest. It's a really stretchy yarn, and it actually sort of feels like pantyhose in a way. That's one of the things that is a positive and a negative. And here's one of the positives. It's a very strong yarn. I had no issues when I was closing the magic ring. It has beautiful stitch definition. It just looks really gorgeous. And this is why I'm on the fence about it. The only issue that I had was that it's a little bit splitty. I'm okay sometimes with a little bit splitty yarn. What I didn't like was that when this did split, it sort of looked like a snag in pantyhose. I don't know if you're as old as I am and you remember wearing pantyhose back in the day, and when you got a snag in them and it just looks awful. That's what this reminded me of. This one is worth doing a little bit more experimentation with than I did for this little test. I want to see if this would actually work because it really is so pretty and it feels so good in my hands. It only comes in 15 different colors, but I really love the look of these colors and I'm on the fence on it. I haven't made up my full mind yet. I actually think I need to crochet an actual toy with it and see how I feel about it in general. But in my opinion, for the money, this would be worth experimenting with if you're not afraid to love something or not like it and take it back or just scrap it or use it for something else. This one is intriguing to me. The next yarn is the Yarn B Studio 72. This is the color Linen. It's 50% acetate, 50% acrylic. I got it for $4.19 at 30% off. It's 3.5 ounces and 145 yards. And one of the things that I liked about this yarn, number one, is the color. I also like that it feels really soft and it has beautiful stitch definition. But let's talk about the negatives here. What I didn't like was that this feels more like a bulky weight to me. This really did not feel like a medium weight yarn to me. So if I was going to use it, I would go up to a 4mm crochet hook. But there's little to no chance that I would actually use this yarn for amigurumi, and here's why. It was exhausting to work with. I felt my muscles fatiguing pretty quickly and it felt really stiff. So this is not a yarn that I'm going to be using, and honestly, I had a lot of hopes that this would be a great yarn to work with, but I don't think I would use this yarn for any reason, amigurumi or blankets or anything else, because I felt so fatigued when using it. It just didn't feel good in my hands at all. So for that reason, this one is not one that I would use for amigurumi toys. The next yarn is the Yarn B Warm and Cozy in the color Oat. It's 78% acrylic, 13% nylon, and 9% polyester. It was $3.49 at 30% off. It's 3.5 ounces and 300 317 yards. From the moment that I pulled out the working yarn from the center, I was frustrated with this yarn. It was a tangled mess and I had to work through that, which I'm willing to overlook that. But as I began to crochet with this and tried to make a magic ring, it was not going to work. This is not an Amigurumi yarn. The only nice thing I could say about it is that it is a pretty color. It does feel really good, and I might give this a second chance if I was going to knit something, but to be honest, I had such a frustrating experience with it. I don't think I would ever purchase this yarn again, and I probably wouldn't want it if somebody gave it to me for free. One of the things I also found when I was trying to frog that magic ring was that it was just getting all tangled up and stuck, and I was just like, It was really frustrating, and I really wanted to like this yarn because it really is pretty. Verdict is, this is not an Amigurumi yarn, and now looking back, I probably should have taken into consideration the fact that there is no recommended crochet hook size, because maybe Hobby Lobby is saying don't use this for crochet, so there's that. The next yarn is the Hobby Lobby Yarn B Alpaca Twist, and what a surprise this yarn was. So let me give you the specs on it. This is the color Blush. It's 90% acrylic and 10% alpaca. It was $3 at 30% off. It's 3.5 ounces and 175 yards. I wasn't expecting to like this yarn after I had just tested the Warm and Cozy yarn, and I thought, oh, I bet this is going to be exactly the same. And I was pleasantly surprised. Now, I do feel like this yarn is a little bit thicker than most of the medium weight yarns that I'm using, so I would go up to a 4mm crochet hook if I was using this. It's a really strong yarn. It is beautiful. It has this gorgeous halo to it, but at the same time, I could see my stitches. The only negative thing was that when you're frogging this and you're ripping out, it does want to stick, but I actually like using some mohair with my Amigurumi toys, so I am used to having that struggle when you are frogging. You really have to just pull one stitch out at a time. Sometimes you actually have to use your crochet hook to kind of rip that little fiber that's stuck, and I don't mind that. And I think that if I was going to use this yarn, I would do it with a pattern that I felt pretty comfortable with, so that I knew that I wasn't going to be doing a ton of ripping back and all of that. But if I was really comfortable with a pattern and I knew exactly how I was going to make it and use it, I would use this yarn. I was so shocked by this one, and it feels so wonderful and just gorgeous, and for the price, I just can't get over it. So there are only 11 colors, which is the only other negative thing that I could say about this yarn. I wish that it came in 60 different colors, but it just doesn't. But the colors that it does come in are very, very beautiful. So I am going to be playing around with this yarn because I was just super impressed with it. It was just a surprise, and a wonderful surprise. I'm just so excited about this yarn. This is the Yarn B Soft and Sleek Low Pill Fiber, and it's in the color Clay. It's 100% low pill acrylic. It was $2.79 at 30% off. It weighs 5 ounces, and there are 232 yards in this skein. Let me tell you that this yarn was nice to work with. I wouldn't say it feels super, super soft, but it feels nice, and it feels very strong. I also feel like that it's a little bit heavier than the medium weight yarns that I'm used to working with, so I would likely go up to a 4mm hook if I was going to be using this yarn. The other positive about this yarn is that it comes in something like 46, I bit my tongue. It comes in something like 46 different colors, and these colors are gorgeous. Like I said, I was so impressed with the color choices that the Hobby Lobby yarns come in. These are really modern looking colors that are so gorgeous and on trend right now. The one thing that I didn't really like about this yarn is that it felt a little bit stiff, and I could feel that my hands were getting a little bit tired. So for that reason, I think I would like to experiment with this yarn a little bit, because the cost is incredible. You really can't beat that price for this type of a yarn. It's fantastic. There's 5 ounces in this thing, and there's 232 yards. So I would like to experiment with this a little bit and just see if my hands can tolerate it. I usually find that acrylic yarns are really good and they feel really good in my hands, but for whatever reason, this one felt a little bit stiff. So I would worry a bit about shaping when I was trying to make a toy and whether or not not it would work the way that I wanted it to. So just keep that in mind if you want to make something with this. And all in all, I would give this probably a B, maybe a B minus as far as a grade. If I was going to grade this yarn, it's definitely not an A plus. It really is a versatile yarn, and because it comes in so many different colors and it's so affordable, that is very attractive. The last medium weight yarn that I tried was the Yarn Bee Breathe Deep in the color Ivory. It's 100% polyester. It was $2.79 at 30% off. It's 3.5 ounces and it's 216 yards. This was another pleasant surprise. I really enjoyed working with this yarn. It felt a lot more like the medium weight yarns that I typically use, so I would definitely use a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook to work with this. It has a little bit of texture to it, and I really love that. As I was crocheting with this, I kept thinking this would make the absolute cutest little sheep. It just has that look of wool to it. And the one thing that I really liked was that it really felt nice in my hands. That's a big deal to me, that when I'm crocheting, that my hands don't feel super fatigued and they don't feel achy. So that's something that I really, really liked about this yarn. And it has decent stitch definition. It's not super, super crisp like a cotton would be, but I actually really like that. To me, it looks a little bit more lifelike. The other thing that I really liked was that it is very strong and that it frogs beautifully. So when you need to rip something out, you just rip it out. It's super easy. I love that. The thing that I don't like about it is that it only comes in 12 colors. I wish that they made this in a ton of different colors, because it would be so wonderful to have a full range of different colors with this one. It does come in really, really pretty colors though. So I will say that those 12 colors are super gorgeous. I'm really happy with how they look. So if you like yarns that aren't super crisp with their stitch definition and that you're happy with that kind of a look, you might really want to try this one. I definitely am going to be playing around with this one more. One of these days I actually might create a sheep with this yarn because I think it would be super, super cute. This next group of yarns are 3 lightweight yarns, and the reason why I decided to knit with these is that I'm looking for yarns that will go with my 3 Little Pigs pattern. So for this pattern, I use a worsted weight yarn to crochet the bodies, and then I knit with a sport weight yarn, which Hobby Lobby doesn't have what they call a sport weight yarn. They have a light though, and it's a number 3. So I thought I'm gonna try that. So the very first one is the Yarn Bee 44th Street. This is the color olive. So gorgeous. It's 70% acrylic, 30% polyamide. It was on sale for $2.57, which was 30% off. This is 3.5 ounces, and there are a whopping 510 yards to this yarn. Sorry, excuse me, 540 yards. I wanted to love this yarn because I actually got it in this olive color and also the shale color. And I was impressed with the beautiful color, and it feels magnificent. It just feels so gorgeous. But from the moment that I started working with it, it just felt so flimsy. I was frustrated from the word go, and it just felt more like a fine yarn than a light yarn. I was actually really surprised when I started working with it and thought, ooh, this is not what I would consider a light yarn. It felt like I was crocheting with fiber made from butterfly wings, and it was just gonna fall apart. I might use this if I was going to make like the little scarf, because there is a beautiful halo, but I would only use this if I was going to make something that was very quick and simple and did not require a lot of effort. I wanted to love this yarn so, so much. So I felt really disappointed with this one. This would be a no for me as far as making amigurumi toys, or even if you were wanting to knit the clothing for them. It just doesn't feel substantial enough for that. But I might knit a few scarves with it. So at least there's some redeemable qualities about it. The The next yarn is the Yarn Bee Sweet Minis. This is the butterscotch amber combination of colors here. So there's 3 different little cakes of yarn inside this little package. It's 100% acrylic. It was $3 at the 30% off price. It's 4.2 ounces in total, and there are 300 yards in total, so each one of the little cakes is 100 yards. What I thought was really interesting about these is that there are all of these different combinations of these sweet minis. So they have beautiful combinations, and they'll have 3 different colors in each little pack, and they all coordinate together, and I loved that. I thought this would be so much fun. So I had very, very high hopes that this would work great for making clothing for my little pigs, because I could crochet the little sweater in the blue and make little pants and vice versa and mix it all together. But that is where the love for this ended. I did not like working with this at all. It really felt like it was fraying as I was working with it. For that reason, I don't think I'm going to be working with this yarn. I may experiment a little bit with it just because I am actually excited about all of the different color options, and I love that you can go ahead and just buy a pack and all the colors go together. I think that is genius, and because they're really small and it's just a little mini, I don't need super huge skeins of yarn for the clothing for my patterns. I usually just need a little bit. So I am going to experiment a little bit more with this yarn. If I'm going to grade this yarn, it gets a C. It's not great, it's not good, but if I play around with it a little bit more, I may develop more of a love for it to see if I can find some redeeming qualities of it, because I do like the idea of being able to grab a pack like this and there are already all the colors that coordinate together. I love that idea. I think that is so smart. But I'm going to have to dig deep to find something that I really like about it. So the verdict is still out with this one. I really hope you enjoyed this little experiment today. I literally had so much fun testing each one of these yarns. I wish this was a job, a full-time job, where a yarn company would hire me to just test their yarns and give my opinions about them. It's sort of like wine tasting, but for yarn. I just had so much fun with it. So hey, any yarn companies out there, hire me. I'll test your yarns for you. Amigurumi only. I don't want to test them for other projects. I only want to test them for amigurumi purposes only. But I would love to know what you think. Have you ever used any of these yarns before, or are there other Hobby Lobby yarns that you love for amigurumi, or are there Hobby Lobby yarns that you're like, stay away from that one for crocheting or knitting toys because it's horrible? I want to know. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and I hope that you stay safe out there and happy stitching.